Our October 2025 monthly school board meeting of the Florence County School District 3 Board of Trustees is now called to order. In accordance with the South Carolina Code of Laws, 1976, Section 30-4-809D as amended, the following have been notified of the time, date, place, and agenda of this meeting: Morning News, Lake City Shopper, WBTW, WPDE, and WMBF. This agenda is also posted on the Florence County School District 3 website. Madam Secretary.
All members are present, including Dr. Mills is on the phone.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. At this time, please ensure that all electronic devices are on silent or vibrate. Please stand as our interim superintendent, Ms. Casey Fagan, will come before our moment of silence and pledge allegiance.
Good evening. Please remember all of Florence School District 3 staff, families, and students, especially those who have experienced loss recently.
I pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Board, I'll now entertain a motion regarding the agenda.
Mr. Chair, I move that we accept the agenda as given. I'll second.
I have a motion by Ms. Ruther Fryson and a second by Ms. Paula Morris. Is there any discussion? None being noted, all in favor to approve the agenda say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Board, I'll now entertain a motion regarding the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion by Ms. Rebecca Yates and a second by Ms. Paula Morris. Is there any discussion? None being noted, all in favor to approve the consent agenda say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. At this time, we are down to special recognition. Mr. Brian Huckabee, Director of Communications, Facilities, and Maintenance.
Good evening. We've got two board members tonight that are being recognized. They've earned recognition by the South Carolina School Boards Association for achievement in the 24-25 Boardmanship Institute. This institute offers a year-round training curriculum to help board members develop skills and stay abreast of state and national education issues. Board members can achieve up to 6 levels of recognition by earning points that are accrued annually from July through June for participation in statewide conferences and training provided on-site in their district and in other parts of the state. So tonight we're congratulating Miss Ruther Fryson.
Woo! Come on!
She has reached level 4.
Come on with your bad self.
And Ms. Rebecca Yates. That's okay. Fine. My mistake.
Give you a pen. Rebecca trying to act surprised. Yes, to the center.
Use the- One, two, three.
There is no one who has signed up for public participation. At this time, we are down to the board chair report and report from other board members. We'll start with Ms. Paula Morris.
Well, we attend the regional advocacy meeting in Florence. And it was a great meeting, and the group discussion consists of question of the current challenge we may have in our district, the success and the strength, and the legislative and policy needs and support and collaboration. So we had a chance to sit at the table with other board members from, over, not over the state, but over the PD that came. And it was a very good discussion on the current challenge and concerns, here, in our district and some of the others say like teachers that, I think that's all over, look, having teachers. And then I told them that, cause we're in the, process of a superintendent search there. And then the success and strength, Miss Angela, I wanna say that I shout out to you, and everybody thought it was so great that they was writing down how you do the intent to sign with our students that's gonna go to college, in education, and then maybe possibly come and teach in this district. And they thought that was, very creative, that we were doing that. And thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Ms. Morris. Ms. Thomas?
I attended the meeting in Semester, and I'm gonna ask, our famous grant writer to join me, because I asked a question, and it was concerning special needs kids. And, he came to me after I asked the question, and he said, Ms. Maddie, make sure you, email me. So I have the email, so I'm gonna ask Ms. Tanya Thomas, if she can make an appointment with me one day, so we may email him, because this is regard to if anything would happen at this school, what would happen to our special needs kids? Everybody know that's where my heart is, right? Should we shelter in place? Should we try to move them? But there's grant money to help us with that. So since she's famous for her grant writing, she didn't know it, and I didn't tell him, but I'm asking her to, join me, and let's try to see if we can get some grant money for these special needs kids. Is that okay, Ms. Tanya? I'm putting you on the spot. Thank you. That's my cousin.
Thank you, Ms. Thank you, Ms. Thomas. Ms. Ryerson?
I attended also the regional advocacy in Florence. So I endorse what Ms. Paul already said, and the risky business in Hilton Head. And that was very good, talking about the safety of our children. And, I've got so many papers all jumbled up here.
I know.
And, but anyway, Mr. Keys, again, the second time, we had him and talking about what happened with his daughter. So, we should not take safety for granted in our schools, and we, as board members, need to make sure that, our SROs are doing what they're supposed to do. Today we went to Beyond the Basic in Columbia, and, they were talking about the referendum and, the GO bonds and all of that. So I don't know where my stuff is, but it's right here. But anyway, I always enjoy the conferences, and, all went well.
Thank you, Ms. Ryerson. Ms. Yates?
I attended the advocacy meeting also, and then, I went to Atlanta Elementary for their Title I meeting,
Yes.
and I appreciated all the information and everything that was given.
Thank you. Mr. McKnight?
No report for today.
Okay. Mr. Kirby?
No report.
Mr. Locklear?
No report.
Thank you all so much. So Ms. Frierson, Ms. Thomas, myself, and Mr. Blake attended the risky business in Hilton Head. As they shared, it was very heavily focused on safety, focused on areas where it was a bit different, because I've been before, and that conference is put on by our insurance company, or the agency that covers us for insurance. And it was very informative, but this year they threw in a lot about our special needs students, which is what Ms. Thomas was speaking about, and making sure, so I reached out to Ms. Fagan to make sure they gave us a suggestion to make sure that in our safety plans, we are including and spelling out what we do with our special needs students. Particularly, there needs to be, or it's suggested that there is, some language in their IEP specifying what is done for our special needs students in the event of all of our drills. And so I thought that was very beneficial. I thought it was meaningful, and it was something that was a bit different than what Risky Business normally covers. So I thank everyone for your work and all that you've done to represent our board. At this time, we are down to the delegate nomination.
Mr. Chairman, I move to nominate Ms. Rutha Friesen as delegate and Mr. Greg McKnight as the alternate delegate for the delegate assembly that will be in Hilton Head in December 6th through the 7th.
And a second.
I have a motion by Ms. Paula Morris and a second by Ms. Rebecca Yates. Is there any discussion? None being noted, all in favor to nominate Ms. Rutha Friesen to serve as the delegate for Florence School District 3 and Mr. Greg McKnight to be the alternate, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. We are down to our interim superintendent's report with Ms. Casey Fagan.
Thank you. At this time, we'll have our finance update from Ms. Hope Gibson.
Good evening, Chairman and members of the board.
Good evening.
I would like to present to you Florence County School District 3, October 2025 finance updates. Our mission statement: ensuring our students are college and are career ready and are productive members of society. (2025-2026) district goals. Number 1, to improve the academic success of all students. Number 2, to ensure the safety of all district schools, officers, students, and staff. Number 3, to increase the number of students reading on grade level in grades K through 3. 4, to recruit, retain, and train excellent instructional and administrative staff. Number 5, to build effective school, community, and business relationships, partnerships. And number 6, to ensure financial stability. The general fund reports are linked to the board agenda and also posted on the Florence County School District 3 website. The general fund approved budget for fiscal year 2025-2026 is $35,646,811. This is the general fund by object as of September 30th, 2025. All board members should have in front of them questions that were requested, information, and I will go through what was requested. The very first one at the top, it has GO bond, general obligation bond. To note what is the remaining balance. To the very far right, where it says remaining balance, is $495,808.60. The special obligation bond is the next sheet. The remaining balance is $13,343,157.87. The capital improvement remaining balance is $545,266.08. The next one is, we was asked several times concerning the report to the State Department. That report was sent on October 8th concerning the capital funds that we have expensed already. If you look at right in the middle, it says total for FY 2024 for, no, that's not what I want you to look at. We've spent $4,467,33.20. That's the matching portion in the middle. Excuse me for that. On the next page, is the safety grant that expired June 30th, 2025. As you can see, the remaining balance is $0. On the next few pages, this is a detailed account inquiry, and it's by location. It shows where the grant was spent on the next 2 pages. We also had another safety grant that is new, that finishes or ends June 30th, 2026. This one is by modifier, where you see 2024 in the middle, second to the last of numbers. So this one identifies the new safety grant. And the remaining balance for that one is $332,346.62. Behind that, you will see everything that was spent on the grant so far in year 2024 and also in year 2025. Are there any questions on what was presented?
I have a question for Ms. Fagan and for you, Hope. As a board member, I'm the one that requested this. So as a board member, do I have the right to request this as many times as I want to? Do I have that right? Okay, because I was cursed out in here about this, and I don't like it. I don't like it, but I am a board member, and every board member up here has the right to request from you guys information. Okay, so Mr. Chairman, you heard what was said to me, so I'm saying it, that I want something done about it, because I do not like somebody, and I mean cursing me out about my rights. And and this is not to attack anybody. I have the right, so Mr. Chairman, I'm saying it, and I want to say it in public, I want a hand up.
Do you have any questions pertaining to the budget or the information that you requested?
No, these invoices, for the fund balance. Is the fund balance in your report?
I do have the fund balance, which was requested before. I think we addressed it on the last board meeting. The fund balance as of 2023, 2024, ended, and money was requested during that time of 2024. So we started with $10 million, well, we ended with $10,905,089. As of the audit completion, is not done for the 2024, 2025. You will receive that information on the next board meeting. We're still in the process of completing the audit. There's a few more things that has to be done.
Okay, and so with the safety grant,
Yes, ma'am.
we don't have any more money when it comes to the safety grant. It's $0.
Well, we have 2 safety grants that were addressed. The very first one that ended June 30th, 2025, all of that has been spent. That remaining balance that says 0,
Right,
that is one of the safety grants,
okay.
okay? And then if you turn the next page, the next few pages, because you have the detail of what was spent
Right.
to get to 0. That's a new safety grant that ends June 30th of 2026. And that shows the remaining balance that we have to spend on that one.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank y'all so much. Thank y'all so much.
Anyone else with any
Any
questions?
additional questions from Ms. Gibson? No, thank you, Ms. Gibson.
All right, thank you all.
At this time, we'll have our human resource update from Ms. Angela Scott.
Good evening, everyone. Our personnel report for October of 2025. We're actually going to begin by talking about our upcoming Coastal Carolina Practicum Day. Each year, for the last few years, we've had Coastal Carolina come to visit us. So when you see those buses rolling through, you know that we are hosting them at Lake City Early Childhood Center, Main Street, J.C. Lynch, and Scranton this year. The purpose of this is to provide their first semester education majors from Coastal with their first meaningful classroom experience. And Florence 3 is proud to be a part of that. They'll be with us for 2 days, October the 28th, and then returning November the 5th. During the month of September and October, we had several recognitions, staff recognitions, including National IT Professionals Day, HR Professionals Day, our Maintenance Worker / Custodian Work Recognition Day, and our National Athletic Coaches Day. We do want to introduce you to our team for each one of them. So this is our this is our IT department that really keep everything running. Our HR department, the people behind the people. Our maintenance and custodian department. And you can see that was 3 pages of them. We're really proud of all the hard work that they do. They are the ones that keep our schools running and every system functioning. And we also had as well our athletic department as well. They are the mentors who inspire teamwork, discipline, and school pride, both in the field and in life. We're really proud of all of our teams. Please make sure that you tell them how much we appreciate them. And just a reminder, I'm going to always give this little plug of Florence 3 HR. We have our job alerts. We encourage individuals to sign up because these job alerts will come to you every week that tell you what vacancies we have. Are there any questions about any of those things? Going back to our sick leave bank program, the proposed policy, this would end up being the second reading.
Board, I'll now entertain a motion regarding the second reading for policy GCCAAA, sick leave bank program.
I'll move to approve. I'll move to approve, policy GCCAAA, sick leave bank program.
Second.
I have a motion by Ms. Rebecca Yates, a second by Ms. Paula Morris. Is there any discussion? None being noted, all in favor to approve the second reading of policy GCCAAA, sick leave bank program, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, we'll have our instructional update from Ms. Mary Howard, our Chief Academic Officer.
Good evening, board chair and board members. All right. For instructional updates for October, our board goals look at Goal 2, academic achievement to improve the academic success of all students, and Goal 3, reading readiness to increase the number of students reading on grade level in K-3. So tonight I want to share with you some highlights from our literacy plan. Looking at our literacy plan, we write a district literacy plan as well as all of our elementary schools and our middle schools write literacy plans. And those literacy plans will be posted on the district's website, also on each school's website. So some highlights from our district plan. Our K-3 teachers regularly conduct comprehensive reading assessments with their DRA, which is the Developmental Reading Assessment, our ERLA tool, which is Independent Reading Level Assessments, and we also do progress monitoring assessments along the way to measure where students are with their reading goals. Teachers use the data to guide decisions made in developing small group plans. Usually we look anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks in planning as what we're going to do in those small groups and the targeted areas that students need to move to the next level. Teachers meet weekly in POC, those are our professional learning communities, and grade level meetings to engage in learning about new strategies for teaching reading and writing. So our instructional coaches do a good job with that. Also, we do conduct monthly staff development meetings with data analysis conducted to address literacy needs as well. We also have letters, and we gave you a letters update earlier, but that is language essentials for teachers of reading and spelling. And that is a training for all elementary schools, special ed teachers, literacy coaches, and interventionists. Our district is almost completed training for everyone. We have a cohort that will be finishing in December, and then we have our new teachers who have just started that came on board with us this year, so it's like a rolling training. And with that, it's not a program for letters, it is really a professional development. It gives us insight on brain development, where kids are in the learning process, how strategies that we can use. This also includes a couple of different assessments that we can use with interventions as well to really dig down into where kids need additional support in reading. Our Spring 25 goals, so we always like to look back at where we wrote the plan for last year to see if we met our goals so that when we wrote our plan this year, we would know how to move forward. So for Spring 25, our goal number 1 was to reduce the percentage of third graders scoring does not meet in the spring of 25 determined by SC Ready from 36% to 26%. We actually met that goal for third grade because we only had 15.6% of students scoring does not meet in third grade. Goal 2 was reading. Thank you, Mr. Green. Goal 2 with reading levels. We did make progress toward this goal. The goal was to increase the number of students from 61% to 70%. Reading on grade level, we almost met that goal. We were actually at 65% there, so that is a goal that we will continue to work on this year as we are working in those reading levels. Goal 3 was to increase reading comprehension, and we wanted to increase from 39% in the fall of 24 to at least 60% in the goal by the spring of 25 as we used our MAP scores to determine this. We did meet our goal. We had 62.2% of students 5K through 8th grade meeting their projected growth. So meaning that even if they wasn't on grade level, they were able to have a year's growth or more based on where they started and where they ended the school year. So our new goals for the 26 plan, third grade, we always have to have a third grade goal, and this one is to increase the percentage of third graders scoring meets or exceeds from 55.6% to 59.6%. We actually use the State Department's target of the North Star to get to 75% of all students being on grade level by 2030. So that's kind of how we came up with that. We also have action steps to continue some things that we're doing great with our backwards design method with professional development. We usually look at that in POC, looking at what the standard says, how are we assessing the standard, what does the student activities look like. Also, we're looking at continuing to provide that strategic, individualized instruction in reading, provided during our one-on-one reading conferences and small group sessions. And then also this year we moved to a new digital program, which is iReady. So we want to make sure that program is implemented with fidelity so that we can see the same success we saw with Lexia. Goal 2, again, that's the one we're continuing to work on with those reading levels. We ended the last year with 65%. So our goal this year is to go from 65 to get to 70. And we will use our reading assessments to measure that at the end of the year. And goal 3, to continue to work on our reading comprehension skills. We are looking at expected growth or projected growth on iReady based on the fall reading diagnostic measure to increase from 34% in the fall of 25 to 60% by the spring of 26. So those are our new goals for our literacy plans. Again, those are posted on the district website. I only have one more school to get posted there, and we'll have all of our schools posted. So I do want to thank principals for getting those literacy plans taken care of, and we do have those posted for anyone to go out and see those. Our next slide was just the follow-up with wraparound services. All of our schools currently have the SEL counselors in place, and we know that that grant is ending in December, so I just wanted to provide you an update on some additional wraparound services that are provided by the school or in the school. So at all of our schools, we do have a company called Stepping Stones. They have clinicians within the schools, or one clinician will serve multiple schools. We also most recently got a Spanish-speaking clinician that is working with our district as well. Also, we have PD Mental Health in all of our schools. And at J. Paul, we do have a clinician through Hope Health. So we do have some additional wraparound services to work with our administrators, also our school-based counselors there. Next tonight, I wanted to bring you some revisions to IKAR, and that is an admin rule for grading and assessment. What we wanted to look at was the section under dual enrollment. Currently, the policy reads that a student enrolled in dual enrollment must earn a 75 or higher to continue enrolling in a dual enrollment class. What we're changing here or making a revision for is to change that to 70 or higher, because at a college level, a 70 is still a C. So that was one of the things. And then we were going to remove the language. We're keeping the language there. If the student scores below a 70, the student or parent will be responsible for paying for the course. We're removing the language that if they earn less than a 70 in a dual enrollment, or 75 in a dual enrollment class, they can retake the class to improve the grade before enrolling in a new dual enrollment course. And then, of course, it said if the student refused to take it, that they would be responsible for paying. So we're lowering that grade to a 70 from a 75 on that admin rule. Our next policy that we want to bring before you tonight, and this one will require action, and I will need action to approve the revisions to ADF, and that is the district wellness policy. As you guys know, we'll be coming up with an audit in our food service department in November, so we're going over these policies again just to see where we are and any revisions that were recommended in the model policy. So that's what I'm bringing forth for you tonight. So in your handouts, you should have a, probably at the bottom of your stack, it was a paperclip section. I didn't know if you can get to it on your iPad, so I wanted to just make sure you guys had that easily accessible. What you should have is what our current policy looks like. Anything in yellow is where the revisions are. So in our current policy, we didn't have the section about water. So we were adding that section in, that water just promotes the hydration. Free, safety, and flavored drinking water will be available to all students throughout the school day and throughout every school campus. The district will make sure drinking water is available where school meals are served during mealtime. So that's being added there. At the bottom of that same page, then on the next slide, it talks about, we had policy EEA, and that just needed to be updated to policy EFE. We had changed it during the last policy revision. It didn't get corrected here. And the other change was that foods made available but not sold may not be sold that have to meet the SMART standards requirements, but healthy items are encouraged. So that's that competitive foods and vending machines information, and we also have that policy in here for you as well, the EFE. So that's the only change there, was to change the code of the policy and add the statement that foods made available but not sold to meet SMART safety. On the next page there, at the bottom, we're taking out the statement that says exempt fundraisers memorandum of 2015, and the new language there is beginning in the school year of 2017-18 and thereafter. The days per exemption is 1 day, up to 31 days each. The SCE considers applications for additional exemptions above the limit in a case-by-case basis and subject to district policy. So what that means is when you're looking at the competitive foods, what can be sold that is not under that Safe Foods, Smart Foods Act there. And then also it says C Administrative Rule EFER, and so that's the admin rule, and that's at the very back of your packet. That's the second stapled document. The next part of this policy deals with the district goals for health and wellness. Again, we're removing the language smarter lunchroom techniques and thorough strategies and best practices meeting the USDA Smart Snacks in schools and nutrition standards, replacing that language with using research-based practices and thorough adherence to the policy of 100% of foods and beverages promoted to students meeting the USDA Smart Snacks and School Nutrition Standards. So just a change in terminology on that page. And then on the last page, it made reference to the physical education policy, which is policy IHAE. So that is highlighted just to show that wasn't in our previous policy, but it's there now. And then in the next paragraph under Wellness Committee, the changes there, previous it stated that the superintendent or her designee, and that is changing to the director of food service, and we added the phone number there, and that is also the same in the following paragraph. Flipping over to additional pages, there's a section that is removed in that fourth paragraph. Yes, go back a slide. We're removing the language there because that is already included in the policy. So it's just a repetition of that same language that's already included in the policy. And also underneath that for the committee, we're removing committee members' names. We will have a committee, but it will just be title-based. It wouldn't need to have people's name in the policy because those people change often. But we will still have a district committee. And then on the last page of this policy, it just shows the new codes that was added, and that was section 5910-350, the length of the elementary and school period. Within the policy, it talks about that no competitive foods can be sold during mealtime. And then they added the code for the comprehensive health education plan, the guidelines and restrictions. So that is the first policy there, that is ADF. Also, you have the competitive food sales and vending machines, and then we had just a couple revisions on that slide. In the fourth paragraph, we're removing the terminology of foods of a minimum nutritional value are those in which contribute less than 5% of the reference daily intake, the RDI, for any one of the several key nutrients in the group into the following of the 4 categories. And so it broke it out as soda water, water ices, chewing gum, and certain foods, and that is being replaced with all school vending machines will contain food and beverages that meet SMART snack requirements. And then in that 6th paragraph on that same page, where it says, currently it states the principal and the school service supervisor, we're removing and the school service, food service supervisor to just the principal is responsible for ensuring that the foods from the vending machines and/or non-cafeteria competitive foods are sold in compliance with the federal guidelines, state regulations, and district policies. And then I did include a copy. That last one is just the admin rule, and it has the definitions of different, as far as looking at what types of foods that can be used in that Competitive Smart Foods Act, and it goes through the sugar content, caffeine, so some of those similar things, and then the last couple pages is just the forms that principals would complete to look at whether the foods that are being served are smart snack compliance, and then that very last page is the 31, just a sheet for them to log their 31 of the non-competitive foods.
Board, I'll entertain a motion regarding the policy revisions for ADF and EFE.
I'll make a motion to approve policies ADF and policy EFE.
Second.
A motion from Ms. Rebecca Yates and a second by Mr. Jason Kirby. Is there any discussion? None being noted, all in favor to approve policy revisions for policy ADF, district and school wellness, and policy EFE, competitive food sales and vending machines, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Howard.
Thank you. Our next slide, just save the date. On Saturday, we would love for you to join us at the 5K run for Dr. Rodaway McNair. It will be hosted at the Memorial Park, so if you can come out and join us, we would love to have you there. And then on November 3rd, which is a Monday night, we'll have our Reading Under the Lights. Again, showing our dedication to our 30 for 30 program and just providing parents with different activities they can do at home. We will also have book giveaways, and our culinary arts department will be providing light refreshments for us on that night. So please save the date for that, and if you can join us, please come out and join us. We would love to have you to read and just to walk around and enjoy seeing our parents engage with their kids and the ways that we can continue to promote our 30 for 30 and reading at home. And our last slide for tonight, like Ms. Angela was giving out shout outs, it is also National Principals Month, so we want to give all of our principals a hand. We thank you so much for your sincere dedication to Florence School District 3 and all of our stakeholders to make sure that our babies are taken care of every day. And also, board, today is Bosses Day, so we want to recognize our interim superintendent for Bosses Day. And that concludes my report. Are there any questions for instructional updates?
Thank you so much for plotting out the acronym.
I remember, you got it.
I just wanna ask a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Or maybe say that, first I'm glad that we have stepping stones at all of our schools. And I know it's getting down to the deadline where SEL will no longer have SEL, and I know we'll have stepping stone, but what I wish is that I asked a few months ago, I had asked that about grants and stuff, cause we could look at, grants. I even asked our chairman to write a letter to Clyburn and some of our legislators and let us sign it, stating how important this program is for us for the safety year in our schools. And I hate to see this program end, and it's still not too late. I wish that it's still something that we could focus on as a district to see where we could get the funds. Or either I wish that, I don't know whether we could have used some of the fund balance to keep these people. And the reason why I'm so passionate about that, because the people that we're about to lose here with in this SEL program, they have a relationship with our children. They know our children. They can relate to our students, and it's all about safety. I don't have anything against stepping stones, but I know that they won't have the relationship that the people that we already have here, even though some of them have already left. And so that's something that I still wish that we could look at. It's never too late. even if we can get it started back up, cause it's, I have a thing that it's never too late to start, but it's too late if we never start there. And I wish that, Mr. Chairman, if you would take me up on when I said a few months ago about we writing a letter to legislators, to people to help us to get this program back. And when we had the, one of our students that got killed in this district, did we have people that went to the counselors or anyone that went to our schools to help like we normally do it through, social emotional learning? Did we have anybody do that? Because I know Stepping Stone is not gonna do that, you know.
Yes, sir. We still do have our school-based counselors as well. And so they do still provide those counseling service that is a part of their, under the National Counseling Association, they can do the individual small group counseling and things of that nature. So anytime there is a crisis in a district that we feel that we need to put additional people in the building, Ms. Fagan does a great job with making sure that she sends out an email asking principals to send their people so that we have additional supports within the schools. So yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, still, I just wish that this is something that we could do, and not let it die. I just wish that
Yes,
something that we could do.
And right now, you know, with the government being in a shutdown, they're not really
Oh, I
doing
understand.
anything with federally funded grants. I know that that topic has come back up for discussion in some articles and things that I read. So I do think that a lot of people do feel the same way, that hope is not lost, that maybe they will be able to provide additional opportunities in the future that districts can apply for these grants
Yeah,
again.
but, and I thank you, Ms. Howard, for saying that, but I asked months ago before they even thought about this, you know, but we have not moved to do anything.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
that's my
Yes,
stand there. Thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am. Thank you.
Good evening. I have Mr. Mike Gallinger, who is here with us again tonight to talk about the SOB bond. There were some questions about how it was going to be paid back and some more information. So at this time, I'm going to ask him to come and share and answer any questions that you may have.
Mr. Chair, ladies and gentlemen of the board, Interim Superintendent Fagan, it's a pleasure to be here with you. Got a package of information here for you to go over equipment financing. You may recognize it was some of the information we went over last year about this time. But we're going to talk about overviews about mechanisms and tools that you could use to finance equipment. We're going to talk about special obligation bonds, which is what we used for funding the equipment purchases here at the district. Then we're going to go over the building program funding report for the district, review the 2 bond sales that you had, and then have some question and answer. And then there's a sheet in there that has some descriptions that was used in the special obligation bond. So to fund equipment and other needs, technology related, capital, it can be used for HVAC, it can be used for electrical equipment and components, computers, smart boards, furniture, playgrounds, athletic equipment, modular classrooms, modular structures, vehicles, and then projects related to energy efficient measures. So those are all things that can easily be funded with an equipment financing. Considerations that you want to make to determine which the best mechanism is going to be the timing, the useful life of that equipment, because we're not going to want to finance computers or short-term assets in a very short period of time. You're going to want to match that up with the useful life of the equipment, what the long-term capital needs of the district are. You may bring in any grant options that you might have. Another big thing is going to be looking at your debt limit. Because if you do the equipment acquisition or special obligation bonds, that debt does not count against your constitutional debt limit, provided it is used for equipment. If it is used for brick and mortar facilities, then it would count against your debt limits. You want to be very careful about how you spend that money, that you don't run afoul of things and mess up with your debt limit. And then you'd also look at what the interest rates are at that time to determine what would be the best funding mechanism. And so, and we're going to talk about equipment acquisition and use agreements, because that was really the basis for special obligation bonds, and it took care of things on a small level. So the school purchases a portion of the project each year with a payment. So the project, the funding is secured by the underlying assets that's purchased, The money that's borrowed, that's put in the acquisition fund until that equipment is purchased, and then a pledge that you're going to pay that back each year, is what the collateral that the lender is looking towards. The payment amounts can be funded with general fund cash, if you have money in your general fund, if you have a sales tax, if you have other revenue sources or grants, or the annual issuance of general obligation bonds. We know you didn't have extra money in the general fund this year, so that's why we did a general obligation bond earlier this year that was used to make the payment. When you do that, only that portion of that general obligation bond counts against your debt limit. In this case, it was issued in September, and it's paid off in March. And so it only ties up your debt limit for 6 months. Whereas in a traditional lease, it's not a traditional lease, because with each purchase, each payment that you make, an undivided interest is transferring from the bank to the school district. So each time you make a payment, you're owning a little bit more of that equipment. Whereas a traditional lease, you're going to make those rental payments all along, and then there may be a dollar buyout at the end, or they may convey the assets at the end. So that's a big difference between a traditional lease and an equipment acquisition and use agreement. The big things to look at is, what are the underlying assets? What is the equipment that you're purchasing? What's the project scope? What's the term? And then the structure of how you want it to be repaid. There's a lot of lenders out there that finance these across the country. Some are headquartered right here in South Carolina, and some are from outside of this market. The repayment terms are typically based on the useful life of those assets. Traditionally, it's about a 10-year term. Some lenders will go 12 to 15, depending on what the underlying assets are. And then, a detailed list of the equipment, it would help them to figure that out. So, any questions on equipment acquisition and use agreements? Okay. Well, let's move on over to special obligation bonds, because that's the mechanism and the means that was used. The difference between the two is a bank would finance an equipment bonds. That's going to be something for a longer term. Y'all's was a 20-year term. So you would go with a longer term there. Those are also going to be sold in the capital market. It can be done on a negotiated basis, or it can be sold competitively. In your case, we did it on a negotiated basis. Only the amount of payment that you issue GO bonds for counts against your debt limit. And these are publicly traded debt instruments. So it's something that, when your bonds were sold, they had a credit rating with them. The credit rating that we received for the district was a A2 for the district. Because it's a non-appropriation credit, not full faith and credit, it has a notch below that. So it was an A3 for the special obligation bonds of the district. I think this is probably the first time the district's had an outstanding credit rating. So you can see there in the box the grades of credit ratings of the AA, a AAA, AA, single A would fit in there, and then you have the triple B and double B. Okay. Any questions on special obligation bonds? Okay. Well, let's go through the debt capsule report, which is the next page, and that has a listing of all of the bond issues for the school district. We've got the 2019 general obligation bonds, which is paid down to $439,000. Those will pay off next March. Then we've got a 2021. It was issued at 1.2, paid down to $900,000 at a very low rate of 1.66%, and those will pay off in 2028. In 23, we did an issue of $1.2 million. It's been paid down to $1,155,000, and that will be outstanding for another 5 years to 2030. We've got our 2025 special obligation bond issue that closed on April 1st of this year, to $21,370,000 with a borrowing rate of 4.213%. That goes out to 2044. I would bring to your attention the date that it's callable is December 34 of 2034, that would be the earliest date that you could call the bonds. So when you issue bonds in the public market, you are, the investor or purchaser wants to know that those bonds will be outstanding for 10 full years. And so you can call those bonds at 10 years. So let's say you were not going to use all of the money. You can't just give it back to them because they bought the bonds thinking they're going to get paid principal and interest over a 10-year period. But what you could do is you say, if we're not going to use the money, we don't want to do the projects, or something has changed, or the projects come in significantly less, we can set up a defeasance escrow that would be set to pay those bonds off on the call date. Okay. And then we've got the 2025 general obligation bonds for $768,000 at a 2.438. Those mature in March of next year. So those will be outstanding very, very short period of time. Okay. Flip over to the next page is your debt structure graph. And you'll see that the district has historically been at about 12 mils. So some years it's been up a little bit, some years it's down a little bit. That has a lot to do with the way the county auditor sets the levy. We had it projected to go to 27.5 mils. Happy to say that the county auditor's calculation came in at 26.1. So it was a little bit less. So it wasn't above our number. So happy that they're below our number. In there, I would bring your attention to the area that is in light blue, and that is your special obligation bond payments going forward. And the little yellow at the top is a little bit amount of interest for the period of time that those general obligation bonds will be outstanding for about 6 months. And then we'll talk about the levy as we get over to the millage cash flow worksheet. The next page is the debt structure report. I like to call this one the math behind the graph because this is the total of those principal and interest payments and what the payments are each year. And so you can see that you have historically been in the 650 to 720 range. Your payments going forward this year would be $1.5 million for the next 3 years, and then $1.8 million thereafter. And then the millage cash flow report. A couple of things to bring into your attention here. From 2013 to 2024, each of those years that have an asterisk by it, that means that that mill value is the actual collected value of the mill. That's what the information that was included in your audit reported that a mill was. It's not an estimate based on assessments. That is what cash was actually generated by that mill. And so over time, that has been up and it has been down. And the notice that going forward, we left the growth rate at 0. We didn't want to bank on it going up, and then all of a sudden, the levy is higher than what we told you it should be. So we wanted to make sure that. Other things that are important on this is column E had the fee in lieu for AESC included in there. Column K removes that fee in lieu. That way, there's full transparency if that does not materialize and come to the district where you could be, and that's going to be predicated on no growth. So to the extent you have growth in assessment, then that will bring those projected millage numbers down. And then the next page is the constitutional debt limit report. The total assessed value of the district's $53,250,000 in round numbers gives you an outstanding debt limit of $4,259,000. And as of the date of this report, there was $997,000 available debt limit. And you can see that that number does grow as some of the older bonds are paid off. Any questions on these?
I don't have any questions. I just want to make a statement is that, as I requested, some information from finance, and then I'm glad that you were here, sir. And as a board member, is that we make sure as a board how we know how we're gonna pay this bond back. We have to be clear of that.
Yes, ma'am.
How we're gonna do that, and because I know we went out, we had a balanced budget, but then we start hearing about finance problems here, finance problems there. So then as a board member, I'm just concerned, and I just need clarification and need to understand, because
Yes, ma'am.
do I understand all these numbers? If I sit here and tell you I do, I tell a lie.
Yeah, we don't want you to lie.
I'm not gonna lie.
No, ma'am.
But then I need, I have questions, I just want them answered for us, for this district,
Yes, ma'am.
for Forest District.
And you should have those answers, and that is my job, is to come and make sure you have that answers. Operationally is something totally different from the debt. The debt for this is to be repaid through the issuance of annual general obligation bonds. So it'll have nothing at all to do with the operating. If you ask me anything about somebody's operating budget, that is not the world I live in. You want to know something on the debt side of things, you got two different levies, two different things. I work on the capital side and with the bond issuances, but I do not. The only time we get involved is if somebody needs a tax anticipation note to meet cash flow needs, we would work on that. Okay. So we've got it built, the model's there for you to be able to repay that. Love to see, great things happening with this district for improvements to your facilities. And then there was one last thing that was added to the presentation, and it was just detailed out what the projects were, and this was what y'all approved back in December of last year for the Early Childhood Center, which, given what the balances are, I'm assuming y'all are making good headway through that project. The stadium, obviously, if you needed to move things around in some of these categories, provided it's still staying with the equipment and within these, that's probably not an issue. If you wanted to go in a total different direction, then that would be something that you would need to work through.
Today, somebody asked the question about a millage. Can you do a millage on top of a millage? An existing millage, can you pass another millage?
Well, there's two different buckets of mills. There's your operating mills, and then your debt service mills. And so your operating mills funds your operating budget, and that doesn't necessarily apply to all taxpayer groups because of Act 388, owner-occupied homes don't pay operational taxes. On the debt service side, that does fall to all classifications. So owner-occupied homes, your vehicles, agriculture, business, rental properties, all of those pay both millages. So you can have operating millage, you'll have debt millage. There is a provision within Act 388, if you experience a deficit, you can put what's known as override millage to recover that deficit. So if you got into a situation where you had something catastrophic happen and you ran a deficit, then that override millage, and that's got a whole different process, and I tell you to talk to your general counsel lawyer about that.
So out of this bond, $19,713,100 has already been obligated with all these projects?
That's what was approved here,
That's what I want to be clear about, that's 19 million.
That's what was approved here. Part of when it was set up, there was also a debt service reserve fund that was requested to be put in there, so there was money borrowed to make sure that the payment could be made. There was a reserve that could make that payment for you.
All right,
Okay.
thank you, sir. I just want to be clear. Thank you.
Were there any additional questions from the staff?
Thank y'all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I wanted to share with you, J. Paul Trulip Magnet School Choir is wanting to plan a trip to Atlanta, April 16th to the 19th. They're asking to perform in the Southern Star Musical Festival, and they are doing fundraisers to help pay the expense of these students. And again, this is Miss Angel Neal and her concert group. We have done these in the past with like an ensemble, but now they're doing them with their choir. So I just wanted to make you aware of that, and they are submitting the proper field trip request forms and all of that. To give you an update in enrollment, you can see the numbers here as of the 45th day, which was October the 6th for us. We were at 2,623 students. You can see where we were on the 135th day report. For last school year, we were at 2,747, so that's a difference of about 124 students. We had first reading of a couple of policies last board meeting, so we need to have a second reading now. And the first policy is JHE, that's the excused absences for career and technical organizational experiences. And again, that is in line with the new requirement, and that is the model policy. It lists what would qualify for one of those excused absences on the next slide. So you can see all the organizations there, and again, students would still be required to make up any missed work. The next policy that we're having second reading on is the policy BEA, which is live streaming of board meetings. And again, it basically says that you have to live stream all board meetings. If there is some issue with technology, you do need to work to get that posted at a later date. And all work sessions, board meetings, everything needs to be live streamed in the new policy. So again, that is policy BEA.
Would I not entertain a motion regarding policy JHE? JHE, excused absences for career and technical organization experiences, and policy BEA, live streaming of board meetings.
Mr. Chair, I move that we accept the second reading for policy JHE and policy BEA.
I have a motion by Ms. Ruther Fryson and a second by Ms. Rebecca Yates. Is there any discussion? None being noted, all in favor to approve the second reading of policy JHE, excused absences for career and technical organization experiences, and policy BEA, live streaming of board meetings, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
On the next slide, you also have a handout at your desk. You've had this before, but this shows where purchase services were reduced in this year's budget, and just breaking it down on some of the areas that we are requesting funds for the purchase service. Classroom teachers and other direct student service providers, you can see the cost there. $956,842. These are employees that work in our district, but they're not Florence 3 employees. They're actually employed through some type of agency. We were able to move $432,875 from our current salaries to help with that, but that still leaves the $523,967. Another thing that we have to pay for is international teachers. When we have a international teacher that comes into our district, there's several different agencies. They are paid as employees, but we have to pay the agency that helped us get those teachers. And so that $250,050, we have $63,080 currently in the budget, so that leaves $186,250. Kelly Services. Those are how we get our subs, and we also use them to fill teacher vacancies that haven't been filled, so that we have people in the classroom. We are looking at what was spent last year in the budget for Kelly's, and that was $334, because you never know from one day to the next how many subs may be needed, so that number is kind of hard to give you a true firm number, but we're just basing it on what we had last year. There's currently $133,565 in the budget, which leaves the $200,435. Also, under maintenance and facilities, purchase services are used there for like plumbing services or anything that our guys can't do, and we have to actually get someone else to come in and work on our facilities. And that was reduced last year by the $1,617,680, sorry. So that's a difference of $272. We went over in some of these areas last year for our purchase service for maintenance and facilities. And as you guys know, when we did our tour of the district, we do have some aging facilities that often require some repairs, and Mr. Huckabee's going to tell you about a couple of those in just a moment when he comes. So you can see the total there, so that's where the 1.2 million that we're requesting came from.
Are there any questions? None being noted, Board, I'll now entertain a motion regarding the fund balance transfer for purchase services in the amount of $1.2 million.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the amount requested.
You gotta say the amount,
What is it?
$1.2 million.
$1.2 million.
I second.
I have a motion by Ms. Maddie Thomas and a second by Mr. Jason Kirby. Is there any discussion? None being noted, this will be a roll call. Mr. Locklear.
Yay.
Mr. Kirby.
Yay.
Mr. McKnight.
Yes.
Ms. Yates.
Yay.
Ms. Fryerson.
Yay.
Ms. Thomas.
Yay.
Ms. Morris.
Yay.
Myself, yea. Motion passes.
All right, at this time, Mr. Huckabee's going to come and share some facilities update.
Good evening again. We've got a few updates for you. It took us a while, but we were finally able to have a conversation with someone at the State Department of Education about the state capital improvement funds and getting permission for some projects that came up later after the funds were allocated. You see the list there: roof renovation at Main Street Elementary School gym, interior painting in the gym, and roof repair for the gym at Lake City High School. We've also got a couple of projects that have already been completed, but we did get confirmation from the State Department that we could expense those projects to the capital improvement funds. Now, the three that are outstanding, the three that we have not done yet, total $391,007. And as Ms. Gibson told you earlier, the balance of the state capital improvement fund is $545,266.08. So when you subtract those three projects from the current balance, that would leave us a balance of $162,259.08. So that's where we stand with capital improvements. Okay, on the next slide, just basically the same updates from Lake City Early Childhood as we've been having. Both DOAS units did get installed during intercession. The picture on the right, you see the crane that was needed to lift those big units into place. And those are continuing. Installation of the HVAC equipment and other mechanical equipment. They're in the process of air ducts in the office area, replacing those, and other air ducts throughout the building to be cleaned. As Ms. Fagan mentioned, we do have unexpected repairs that come up constantly. And one of those, a couple of weeks ago, we had a rooftop unit at J.C. Lynch. It actually cools the media center. That went down. It's a 20-year-old unit. We got a quote on replacing it. It was much higher than we expected, and part of that is because we would need a crane similar to what was at Lake City Early Childhood to lift it onto the school. And those cranes are expensive. You pay for the crane, you also pay for the operator. So the quote we got was $19,000. Of course, that's not in our budget. So, Mr. Lloyd McElveen, our HVAC guru extraordinaire, he was able to replace the compressor for about $2,000 and a few $100s in refrigerant, and we'll just keep our fingers crossed. But that's just an example of some of the repairs that come up, particularly with this older equipment that we've got. On the next slide, we've got the architectural plans for football stadium field house, the concessions and restroom building, and the ticket booths. On the next page, you can see the entrance, as well as the ticket booths. And then the page after that, you see the concessions and restrooms. We have put that out for bid. We got one bid for $354,498. That's a little more than the $300,000 we had estimated, but that estimate was from, what, 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
Wow.
And so since then, the price of aluminum has gone up, and plus we had to make some modifications to add some additional plumbing to the women's restroom to meet code. And this building would be paid with special obligation bonds. Okay, on the next slide, at the last meeting, we were asked to look into new seating for Scranton Elementary School's auditorium. We got two prices on both upholstered seats and plastic seats. We would recommend if we do anything, we get plastic seats because those are easier to maintain. But the quote for the upholstered seats, which are similar to what we have in Blanding Street Auditorium, $199,800. The plastic seats, $118,800. And then since we would be replacing the seats, we would recommend refinishing the hardwood floor, which is estimated $12,420. Any questions about that?
That seating, would that be out of, could you use my money for that too, or that's out of the general fund?
Well, I mean, yeah, it's repossessable, so yeah, you could use bond money for special obligation bond money for that. You could not for the floor.
Just the seats, yeah. Yeah.
Mr. Huckabee, I just want to ask, and I did the walkthrough, and that auditorium really needs to be another auditorium.
I don't disagree, Ms.
So,
Lawrence.
but the thing I want to ask is that if we're gonna spend $118,000 to do the seats, and then, but we've been through that auditorium, and
I agree.
it's
I agree.
much more.
And I'm just presenting the information I was asked to.
Yeah, I understand,
To
but
get to you.
it's much more.
Yes, ma'am, that building needs a lot more
A lot
work
more,
than
yeah.
just the auditorium.
Yeah,
You-
and
you're
I
right.
don't think we'll be doing justice by spending this on the seats, when we've been, and there's much more that we need to do in that building.
I agree. I believe that's our oldest building in the district too. I think that building was built in the 40s. So, yes, ma'am, it is, no offense to Miss Kirby, but it's sort of like slapping lipstick on a pig. You
They
know?
finally got the wall fixed, and now
Yeah.
it's falling apart, that was the main thing.
Yeah, well, you know, a hole opened up in the floor, we had to, and that's where we have our, some of our server equipment too. So, yeah, we had to fix that this past year. And then the last slide, you see the, items we have prioritized, if you so choose to tell us to proceed with any of them.
Okay, Mr. Huckabee, my question for you, this attachment that we have for all of our projects, this 9.7 and 9.5, these are the current These are the correct totals for Snyder Phase 2.
Yes, sir.
I was asking Ms. Yates and Ms. Frierson, does anyone know, because I don't have it with me, the total for Snyder Phase 1 for the work that was done at Lake City Early Childhood?
No, you're talking 1A? Mitch, you remember that?
1A?
Yeah, 1A.
1A was right at 800,000, if my memory serves me correct.
What was it?
1A is about 800,000.
Okay, I can't go off of.
And that, well, that was a lot of that was paid to ESSER fund, ESSER funds as well.
Okay.
Now, 1B is 5.8 million.
And that's what's already come out of this.
Oh,
line.
That's what's going on
That's
now.
what, we already approved that, yeah.
Okay. I just, because I'm going back up here to, what was identified in the bond, 5.8. You know, for, Lake City Early Childhood. So that was actually, that price was correct. And then the difference between, if everybody will go back to that page of what was identified in the bond, you should have it up. The difference between the stadium we selected option A, which was 4.228375. There, you went a little over by $48,695 on that project. Then we identified the auditorium and the bond we set aside $456,590. But in your attachment, you see that you have auditorium option A, which is 1.14611, or option B, which was 323. So if you did option B for the auditorium, that comes in less than what was set, or what was identified in the bond.
Mr. Brown, option B, I don't think
It doesn't include.
completely special obligation bond. I think just the lighting might be,
Just the lighting.
the structural work would have to be done.
General fund. Okay. And then we're looking at, yeah, so that's $250,000 of structural work.
That whole stadium cost, the 2.3 comes out of general fund too, right? That whole 4 don't come out of the obligation.
Right,
Yeah.
you're right.
Yeah.
And we've yet to bid out the
Roman structure.
field house, correct? So,
Yeah.
you know, we could come in last, we could come.
Don't know for sure, but
All we've got right now.
Okay. Well, the main thing that I wanted us to take in consideration as a board is the things that were spelled out that we voted and agreed to do based off the bond, which we signed for. As you all can see, spelled out clearly in here is HVAC and light. HVAC and lighting is spelled out clearly and identified and accounted for in Snyder Phase 2. And that's something that we need to make a decision about. We just heard it shared with us that a unit went out and somebody was able to make a repair, but that's not a permanent fix. We understand we were already told that we have aging HVAC and lighting equipment. And we also understand the longer we wait to make a decision about Snyder, the more these costs are going to change.
So how much do we have left in the bond? That was the 9,540,842.
The bond has
It's the second page of the handout.
$13,343,157.87.
Okay. And that's after the stadium, the alarm system was already out of that? So none of that had come out of
That
that?
hasn't been taken out.
But we already approved that stuff, come on, we didn't take that out.
So it's not, the only thing we're looking at in phase two is the lighting, the emergency lighting, nothing but lighting,
The lighting and the HVAC,
and the HVAC.
yes, ma'am.
Well, and that includes some
And
building
building
automation as well.
May I have a motion?
Do we have a final price of what we have left in the bond? I mean, will it cover the 9,795? If you vote for the Snyder plans, will you gonna have enough to cover it?
It will. Because we agreed to,
You got option 1 and 2. Phase 2, you got 2 options.
we agreed to the fire alarms, right, which was 2 million, that may have already came out, 2,684,518. Didn't come out yet.
The fire alarms was 2.3 million,
Mhm.
although the quote was a little bit less than that. So that won't be quite as much. The playground equipment is, $200,936. And those have not come out of that, 13 yet.
And then the stadium stuff for SOB hadn't come out either.
Right.
So that was
The stadium upgrades,
that's just comes out of the bond.
was, well, part of it will come out, the SOB and then the other, but it was 1.3. That's not including the, field house, that was a separate structure, so that was the money that was moved from the fund balance, the 3 million, for the permanent field house.
It should balance out.
Yeah, so it leaves about a little over $9.7 million.
So you got just enough to do option 1 or option 2. I don't have the paperwork. What's the
Mr.
difference?
Driggers,
What's the difference in
I
the
can't remember, can you share with us your recommendation between the option 1 and option 2? I remember you telling us, but you tell us again.
Option 1 and option 2, the only difference, option 2, you won't get the Career Tech rooftop units. But you will get the wall pack replacements at Main Street. On option 1, you will get the Career Tech rooftop units, but you will not get Main Street units. Option 1, we actually get 28 units. Option 2, we're actually getting 24 HVAC units. If I had to make a statement on it, I would prefer option 1 because we're getting more units. Plus, we're getting units because we're gonna have to have a crane to do. Push comes to shove, our guys in-house can change those units on Main Street. That makes a little more sense to me on that process.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. All right, board, may I have a motion? Everybody's scared, but everybody be ready to complain. Come on, come back.
I'll make a motion to approve the funding for Snyder for phase one,
Phase 2, option 1.
phase two, option one.
Second.
Oh, I got all the seconds. I have a motion by Ms. Rebecca Yates and a second by Ms. Luther Frierson. Is there any discussion?
I just have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So when we approve this, Mr. Acadino guy, excuse me for saying your guy.
Mr.
When we approve this now, and with the go forth with Snyder to do the lighting and everything. So tell me where that's, and Ms. Fagan, where's that gonna leave us at is with the other projects that we have to do? I'm one of those persons, I mean, I don't probably.
We'll still be able to do the stadium, the fire alarms, and the playground equipment. The option 1 and option 2 both will eat up most of what's left. Now, option 1 includes some other funding sources. 9.7 isn't all special obligation bonds. 615,000 of that are from other funding sources like the remaining safety grant. Some of that will be used for windows. The bulletproof windows, bulletproof film. So the total contribution from special obligation bonds is gonna be 9.1 million for option 1. For option 2, it's 8.9 million.
So the question I'm asking, will that take away from, we know that we got Lake City High School, we know that Main Street when it comes to the roof.
Yes, ma'am, we're using the capital improvement
Okay,
funds for the
that's
state
different.
to do those projects, yes, ma'am.
And then getting back to you, the safety grant, about the safety. Now, what about, you know, when we did a walkthrough like with the high school, and you talked about the gate and cards, you know, for security reasons?
Yes, ma'am.
So, do we have the funds to do that? Are we gonna do that? And the reason why I'm asking.
We've done some of it. We did it at the Cape Building. We do not have the funds to do the rest of the campus
Okay.
yet.
And the reason why I'm asking is because I don't think the high school is safe as it need to be. And I know these things that we're gonna do is gonna make it safer for our students. And so that's one thing that I wish that we would look at too, to make sure, you know, like the ideas that we're gonna do with the badges and whatever, that's good, but let's look at safety too, you know, there to make sure that we have our staff and our students, you know.
Well, I'll tell you, Ms. Paula, my initial recommendation for that safety grant was to completely have access control at the full high school campus. But other priorities were said to take precedent over that. So that's why we only did the Cape Building. We did J. Paul and Ron McNair, and then what was left over to do Cape.
Do you have the estimated total of what it would take to complete Lake City High School?
Not off the top of my head.
Can you
no,
obtain that for us, please?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I have my motion by Ms. Rebecca Yates and a second by Ms. Frierson. Is there any additional discussion? None being noted, all in favor to approve Snyder Phase 2, Option 1, say aye. Aye. Any, or no? No. Mr. Locklear. Mr. Locklear.
Yay.
Mr. Kirby.
Yay.
Mr. McKnight. Yay. Ms. Yates.
Nay.
Ms. Frierson.
Okay.
Ms. Thomas.
Yeah.
Ms. Morris.
With a nay or yay, I don't know, nay, I, right now, yeah.
Okay, so that's a nay?
Yes, yes.
Okay, and myself is a yay. The option passes. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that concludes our presentation.
Thank you. Board, at this time, I'll now entertain a motion regarding executive session.
I make a motion, we exit to executive session.
Discuss.
Oh. To discuss personnel matters, concerns, possible hiring, termination, resignation placed on leave or legal matters.
I have a motion by Mr. Jason Kirby, a second by Ms. Rebecca Yates. Is there any discussion? None being noted, all in favor to exit from open session and to enter into executive session to discuss personnel matters, concerns, possible hiring, termination, resignation, placed on leave, or legal matters, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. entertain a motion to exit from executive session and to reconvene into open session.
Mr. Chair, I move that we exit executive session and reconvene to public session.
I have a motion by Ms. Ruther Frierson and a second by Ms. Paula Morris. Is there any discussion? None being noted, all in favor to exit from executive session to reconvene into open session, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. There were no matters that needed to be carried over from executive session. Board, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion by Ms. Maddie Thomas, a second by Mr. Jason Kirby. Is there any discussion? None being noted, all in favor to adjourn, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Great night.
Good night. Good night.
Anybody want to clock out?
I do.